Hello and welcome back to On the Break. Yes, we're back again. I'm sure you're surprised. I'm here with Mike. It's been even longer than I said with Joel since we've sat down and done a video. So we got a wild card weekend reaction, super wild card weekend. It's one of my favorite titles. But we're here with Mike, and it's been a while. So how have you been? Well, the people are wondering. They're worried.
Yeah, it's been a while, Makuch. Happy to hop back into us. Let's dive into these games. It's
You're
been a
just
wild weekend.
ready to get back into it, just right off the bat. So you know what? That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. Probably the least entertaining game. I actually slept through this game. I'll be honest with you. The Bills and the Patriots. It was an absolute blowout. Just marauded the New England Patriots. Obviously, Mac Jones' first NFL action. You're not expecting a lot out of him, but this Patriots defense that was so touted before just collapsed right before our very eyes. And for me, Mike, I don't know if you felt the same way, but this had more to do with the Bills' offensive firepower than really the Patriots' ineptitude on the defensive end. Obviously, the Patriots were terrible on defense. We know that. But this Buffalo Bills team, they look really good. I'm very surprised of how well they've played, considering they were a bit shaky to end off the season. And now they're coming into the playoffs with all weapons firing right on cylinders. And this Buffalo Bills team, I think, is for real.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were starting to write off the Bills towards the end half of the season, like you said. And I just had a feeling, with the great coach in Sean McDermott, really high on him, and you've got Josh Allen, that offensive firepower. It was just too much for the Patriots to handle at the end of the day. And the Patriots defense, like you said, didn't look as stout on Saturday night. They got absolutely trampled, literally lost by over 4 possessions. It was a ridiculous game. And you got a low-key kind of a good running game in Buffalo. A lot of people like to say that Singletary isn't that flashy of a running back as he used to be, if he ever was. But you got him, Moss, and Allen taking that run game, and they ran it down their throats big time. That run game that people were questioning if Buffalo ever had was there. It appeared on Saturday night, and they got a great aerial and a ground and pound attack, and that's something that Buffalo really needs to take advantage of heading deeper into the playoffs, especially when they face the Chiefs at Arrowhead next week.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. But first, the whole segment that we are doing here as we talk about these matchups, we're going to use one sentence to describe the matchup as a whole. Obviously, we just went into it a little bit, but a lot of things you can cap off in one sentence, okay? And what I have is you can only hope to contain them, the Buffalo Bills, because they are an absolute menace on the offensive end. I mean, you talked about it a lot. There's a lot that they have to take advantage of. And that rushing attack, mainly with Josh Allen, I feel like is something that they might be able to do a bit more. I mean, he's the second best rusher in the league in terms of the quarterback position for me. Obviously, Kyler's great, but you look at Josh Allen's statistics and what he does on the field, Allen has been quite better at that fact. But Kyler's had to do it a little bit less this season. Allen's done it quite a bit. Both of those teams, their rushing attack isn't very phenomenal. But what is your sense to describe this matchup, Mike? I know we just said a lot of sentences, but you got to pick one.
Josh Allen is a bad man. There's nothing else to add to that. Like you said, Recruch, he can throw. He's got a heck of a cannon of an arm. He can also run it down your throat too. He makes people miss. He hurdles over them. He's a multi-talented man, and he's the quarterback that you will want to put your entire team on his back, because he can do it. He can do it all. And he's probably, and this season, he is easily probably top 3, top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL this season. He's been absolutely phenomenal.
He's definitely up there in terms of who's good at football. Josh Allen is up there for sure. I think he'll get an MVP at some point in his future in the NFL. He's got a very bright future, and the present is already pretty bright too. He's still one of those young quarterbacks that we think of, but he's there. He's that guy. It's gonna be fun to watch for years to come, right? But he's got to play a certain team, Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to talk about what they did. The Steelers, they had to take on Big Ben's last game as an NFL quarterback, and the one sentence I would have to say is that Ben was just trying to have fun out there. Okay, I mean, before the game, he was saying, "Yeah, we don't have a chance. We're just going to do what we do." And his teammates, I'm sure, were not too fond of that, of the sentence that he said, where he just said, "Yeah, we have no chance." I mean, obviously, you want to believe in your teammates, but was he wrong? I don't think so. The Steelers had absolutely no chance against this Chiefs offense. They held on for a bit TJ Watt got a nice fumble recovery, took it back. The Steelers were up 7-0. It was a slower game. And then, I mean, there were a few minutes where you were thinking maybe the critics of Kansas City were right and that their offense would be slowed down eventually. No, it was just no. Everybody started. They have receivers that are so phenomenally fast, and their entire roster offensively is just something you can't keep up with. They have Orlando Brown now on the offensive line, Creed Humphrey on the offensive line. They have a great line compared to what they had last season. It's young. It's getting a lot better. And do we have to talk about number 15 at all? We know what he does. We know what Patrick Mahomes does. So Ben was just trying to have fun out there. He enjoyed his last game, I'm sure. Almost had a final drive to put in a touchdown, but just a few yards short. But 2 Super Bowls, 3 appearances. Had a great career. Will be in the Hall of Fame. Not should be, will be in the Hall of Fame. He obviously should be, but he will be in the Hall of Fame. Like one little sentence.
Really, just thanks for the memories, Big Ben. You know, he had a heck of a career, but it's about time he goes. You know, before the half, he longest completion that he made was literally 4 yards. If that's not an indicator that this man's time in the NFL has come to an end,
yeah,
what else is not? You know, great career. The Steelers defense did hold in there in the first half, and then, like you said, absolutely got blown out for the next 3 quarters. You know, but it was promising to see. You know, TJ Watt is an absolute stud on that Steelers D. The Steelers defense is a very bright future. Obviously, a lot of questions next year going in Pittsburgh, for especially at the quarterback position, because like with the Steelers' offensive weapons, their wide receiver core is so versatile, very talented. There, you got very young star in Najee Harris and everything. So all you got to do is really figure out the QB position. It'll be interesting to see where Pittsburgh goes from here, but yeah. But they were just completely outmatched by the Kansas City Chiefs. And like you said, I would even talk about Mahomes. Mahomes is Mahomes, you know, doing Mahomes things, you know. The only thing he's not doing Mahomes is doing TikTok dances on the sideline. But other than that, you know, Andy Reid's a great coach, very well coached team. You know, I still don't think the Chiefs defense is anything to write home about, but what else need to say when their offense is the way it is? This guy, even named Pringle, is an absolute speedster, and he was still burning. He was still burning off the top of that Steelers defense. So the Chiefs offense, as long as they keep intact, Mahomes doesn't turn the ball over like he did at the beginning of the season, they'll be just fine heading into deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Mahomes era, when has the Chiefs defense really been all that great? They haven't been as phenomenal. Obviously, that Super Bowl win, they had much better performances from Tyrann Mathieu. They had a decent secondary, but they've never had an elite defense of any sort.
Oh,
really.
I agree.
But Mahomes has always found ways to win, no matter what. Just give him a decent offensive line, which they have, and let the receivers do what they do. The Chiefs are going to be great. On Friday, we're going to get a little bit more into these matchups, but I want to just kind of mention them really quick. I mean, Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's an AFC championship that we've all dreamed of for a while, a bit of a rematch here for these two teams. And one of these teams are going to go to the AFC championship. And it's a shame that one of these teams is not going to be contending for a championship, because these are the 2 best teams of the AFC, in my opinion. They're really good. I mean, just really quick. It's
easily by a mile. Yep.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I'm ready for it. We're going to get into it a bit more on Friday, but you know, that's going to be some good times, right? I'm going to bring up some bad times for our boy Mike over here. Okay. I know it's been a while. I don't know how many of you remember that he's an Eagles fan. You probably expected the result of last weekend's game.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But the Eagles and the Buccaneers, I had to watch this on a plane coming back from Milwaukee, actually from Chicago at that point. But it was a tough game. I wanted something that would really kill the time while I was on this plane, but it was such an awful game that it was a bit difficult. You know, I still realized I was on a plane. I couldn't get drawn into this because it was just so awful. I don't think it was anybody's fault. The Eagles roster is just not good compared to Tampa Bay's. It's just not what it is. Obviously, Tampa Bay's had their injuries and the Eagles have their struggles, but you know, a lot of people were saying they have to feed Devontae Smith more, right? And obviously Devontae Smith is good, but that's more of a product that the Eagles' other receivers are not good at football. So it was Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and friends over there. Jalen Hurts, I'm impressed by his season, but I'm going to say a sentence, and this is kind of true for the Steelers as well, but Philly shouldn't have even been there. That's my sentence because of this whole 7 seed playoff system. You're going to see matchups like this where a 2 seed plays a 7 seed. You see this in the NBA all the time too, where a really great team will play a terrible team that snuck into the playoffs and it's an absolute sweep. And that's what this was. This was a sweep. Philly fought back near the end, and I think that they're a young, developing roster. It'll probably be pretty good next season if they continue to add pieces. But if they draft as horribly as they had the past few seasons, maybe not. But I'm telling you right now, if this team had Justin Jefferson, this team would be pretty good. Jalen Rager probably shouldn't be on an NFL roster next season. I'm sorry to harp on your Eagles, but you're probably saying a lot of these things too. This Eagles team didn't show up, and it's that simple. So Philly probably shouldn't have even been there. Pittsburgh shouldn't have even been there, and I don't like the 7 seed.
Yeah, my one sentence is, I would so love to drop an F-bomb on this show, but get the hell out of Philly, Jalen Rager. Yeah. I mean, what an absolute embarrassment. What a waste of a roster spot. Tried to hold on to some hope, but, you know, if a man can't even return punts correctly or track the ball in the air when it's up in the air, even during a punt or during the game when Jalen Hurts probably underthrew the pass, I mean, should you even be a receiver at this point? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he's handing out Gatorades to the rest of the team. You know, being the water boy. I mean, might be a better one, but hey, he might drop the water or the Gatorade anyways too. He might drop the whole tray. Who knows? But one thing I'll say though is that definitely just need to draft some defensive talent. You know, just on paper, I can't really say much about the Bucs. They just outplayed them, outcoached big time, and a lot of questions going for Philly. Is Jalen Hurts the answer in the future? My answer is hell no. I mean, he has the legs to do it, but I just don't see the natural arm talent. He just doesn't have arm talent to get it done at NFL level. You know, I want to like him. He's a hard worker, very dedicated, big lover of the sport, but at the same time too, you got to have an arm and sometimes to put the team on your back. And he's shown that he really can't. All you could try to do and hope for is to run out of bounds to save time, you know? And as you're saying, for receiver talent, definitely would love to sign a wide receiver too in the off season. But otherwise than that, like, you know, they played a pretty easy schedule at the end of the season, but promising to see too, considering that a lot of people written off this team as a bottom 5 roster and only winning 3 to 4 games this season. So proud of my team, you know, but I was not expecting them to, even if they somehow beat the Bucs with the run game, still would have not expected them to go far, you know. So it's just that they just don't have enough just yet.
They don't have an it factor in the playoffs at this point.
Exactly.
They got in.
Yeah. Well, all I have to say is that they just don't have the it factor about them right now, you know.
Again, Justin Jefferson would have been that guy to me. To be a bit of an it factor player, but would Jalen have been able to make him work as well as he has with Kirk Cousins? I mean, you know, Kirk Cousins is that phenomenal, but he's statistically been a top 5 quarterback in this league. We all know Kirk Cousins isn't a top 5 quarterback in this league, but statistically he has been. But that's Minnesota. This is Philly. Tampa Bay, though, on the other hand, seeing multiple injuries to their offensive line, obviously you have to be worried about that if you're Tampa Bay. Their rushing attack has not been that great. A lot of teams have rushing quarterbacks or quarterbacks that can run the ball. The NFC, not really. The remaining 4 can't really do it. You got Garoppolo, Stafford, Rodgers, probably the best at it. And then Tom Brady, who's slow as a turtle. So now the AFC West, you have quarterbacks who are pretty decent at it, besides the Bengals-Titans matchup we'll get into. So if you look at Tampa Bay, they're going to need their guys to go. Whoever, Keyshawn Vaughn, is going to have a great postseason. If this Tampa Bay team wants to win the Super Bowl, they have a tough matchup going ahead in the divisional round with the Rams. And that's not going to be easy if Tampa Bay is not running the football well, because we saw what just happened against Arizona, which we're going to get into in just a second. But for Tampa Bay, how worried are you about this team? Or do you think Tom Brady's just going to be Tom Brady and do what he does?
You know, what makes a great offense, as we've seen in history, of course, you got to have a great quarterback, and Tom Brady is far from being great. He's elite. He's the best quarterback and best player to ever play the sport. He's fantastic. And obviously, he's getting a little bit older. You're definitely going to need a good support system around him, just like any quarterback needs. A good support system, good 1-2, punch-hit receiver, and a big thing you need is a reliable rushing attack. And right now, after Lenny and Ronald Jones got hurt, you lost that rushing identity. And in the playoffs, especially when you need to kill the clock, you definitely need to rely on that run game. And right now, the Bucks are a great team, but they're not a good kill the clock team at this point. Yeah, and especially if the pass game is not working, you're gonna need to run that ball. Vaughn had some flashes yesterday against the Eagles, but very, very few flashes though. But he's nothing special or nothing nothing to write home about. So Bucks need to figure that out. They have the offensive line to do it. Their offensive line is fantastic. Obviously, some injuries. We're gonna have to monitor and see how Worse does after that game. But other than that, not extremely worried, but there's cause to be concerned, especially when it comes to the rushing attack. Their defense can get it done. I'm not writing that about Todd Bowles coached a heck of a game. I think he's very underrated as a defensive coordinator. He coached a perfect game against the Eagles, and their defense can hold it down. It's just that can their offense finish the whole game? And Tom Brady took a lot of sacks yesterday, so their backup offensive line might be an issue too. So that'd be interesting looking into next week when they face the edge rush and the front seven of the Rams, because that's going to be a very, very, very tall task for this Bucks line.
Aaron Donald should have an absolute field day. It's just a matter of whether the Bucks are going to be able to respond. Yeah, exactly. You got to send out some kind of gift from above to be able to stop a man by the name of Aaron Donald. They're a great team, and I'm ready for them, Mike. But you look at Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to move on here. It's hard. It's hard to really criticize the Arizona Cardinals for what they did against the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams came out. They looked phenomenal. They did what they did. This was the Rams team that we thought could show up all season and did not show up all season. This was an inconsistent football team that has not played very well as of late. And it was a similar thing to the Buffalo Bills where they just turned it on come wild card weekend. And we're going to see if they can keep it going. I think they will, especially with the offensive line issues in Tampa Bay. But that's a story for another time. We're here to talk about the games that just happened. So what I'm going to say for Arizona and the Rams is it's not Kyler's fault, I'll say. I know the statistics don't look too great. I'm not going to sit here and say he had a good game because he didn't. He didn't have a good game. But
not at all.
Nobody was getting open. You're missing DeAndre Hopkins. The offensive line was finally exposed for what it is, and it's not very good. And the defense, again, is also not as good as a lot of people say it is. This Cardinals team as a whole was a team that got hot early in the season, won enough games to get into the playoffs the way that they did. And they're not there yet. I think they can be there. They're still young. They're developing. But again, this offensive line is not very good compared to what a lot of the other ones in the league, and especially when you go against Aaron Donald. Kyler's great. We know he's great, but he wasn't that great yesterday or in this past game. But he showed he has a ton of talent. I mean, we all saw him just chuck the ball up in the back of the end zone to throw it up to a Ram corner and just easy touchdown there. But he can only do so much as a quarterback, as Kyler Murray. He didn't have the receiving talent. We know what he can do when he has D-Hop and everybody back, but he didn't. So not Kyler's fault is what I'm going to say, Mike. What about you?
It takes a whole team to lose a game, The Rams defense allowed, if I'm not wrong, if I'm recalling correctly, 34 points, which is not an impressive effort, whatsoever. Stafford absolutely dropped dimes all over the field on Monday, Cardinals defense definitely did not show up to play, even activating JJ Watt off IR. Didn't really affect the game whatsoever. Still lost by over 20 points, Yeah, I definitely agree with that with Kyler. Kyler is a kid with a lot of talents, he plays bigger than he is, as a lot of people don't really realize. Yeah. Exactly. He has an arm too. There's no question about it. He has all the talent in the world to be a great quarterback in this league. But you have to have receiving talent too. If Christian Kirk is your number one receiver, I'm worried. Hopkins was a game changer for this team. Kingsbury, he'll be back next year with a better team. Still very young team, still developing. Cardinals got a lot to look forward to, but they just need to finish stronger come the second half of the season. Because as we saw after, I saw the stat that in the latter half of the season they finished 5-7. That's cause to be really concerned, because they finished 10-7 if I'm not wrong. So
yeah,
After 5-0, they won 5-7. That is not an impressive stat to look at, you know? So Cardinals just definitely need to finish better as a team, you know, as a unit as a whole. Like you said, it's not Kyler Murray's fault completely. He did make some awful passes, as we saw. That pick six, that was literally a 1-yard pick six because of how where that throw was, how treacherous that throw was. But yeah, just in that case, the Rams came to play. The Rams played aggressive. You know, they got to Kyler and made his life miserable, and they just took advantage of this very overrated O line. You know, the Cardinals aren't amazing in the trenches on either side of the ball. Even with JJ Watt, they're not amazing. So that's something that they definitely need to address coming next season. But yeah, the Rams just outplayed them big time. So big blowout.
Big blowout for the Rams. They really just didn't. I mean, the Rams are just a great team. They have all the roster talent in the world. I mean, we have Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald on the same squad, and Von Miller. We forget about that. And Odell Beckham wearing the wrong blue, if you ask a lot of people, but he's playing phenomenal. If you were a Giants fan, I think you have to be absolutely sickened right now. I think Joel has some great thoughts about that situation over there. But we're going to see if he can do that going forward. Because this Rams team, we've seen a lot. They like to fall. Okay. They like to, you know, show a lot of stuff and then just not bring it the next week. So this is going to be a big moment for them to prove it in the divisional round and see if they can do it. But
yeah, it's just if they can do it. I personally think when looking on paper at their roster, they probably have the best all-around team in the NFL.
Yeah, they have
just
the best
offensive defense are solid. You know, I don't see a lot of glare. I don't see really any glare of weaknesses looking at this roster. You know, trenches are solid, secondary solid, receiving is great. Their quarterback
return now too. I mean, this team's dangerous. This team is dangerous.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's one word to say. Dangerous. That they're somebody that not to take lightly. You know,
unlike
Bucks
Baker,
are gonna have their hands
they woke up feeling dangerous. This Rams team. This is
Baker Mayfield.
Wrong video. I mean, you know, I think you still have to give him another year to really make a decision. But that's beyond. I don't think it's gonna be great, but we'll see if the Browns can make a career out of him. Okay, I want to see a year out of Baker where his body isn't falling apart as he walks. Okay, so we'll see what the surgery does. We've talked about Baker many times, and too many times, I think. And a quarterback, we're going to talk about a different quarterback you'd love to criticize. Okay, Dak Prescott, and I think Dak deserves all of the criticism in the world right now. I think the Cowboys deserve all the criticism in the world right now. Obviously, a lot of credit to the San Francisco 49ers, who last episode I did call this game. I said the Niners were going to take the Cowboys down, and a lot of people did. But, you know, this was an upset. This is an upset call. Okay, I didn't expect it to be in the fashion that it was, where the Niners came out and dominated on every end of the field from the jump, and then let Dallas back into the game late, and then my sentence will come up. Why did Dak run? I think Mike McCarthy said that was the play call, that he doesn't regret the play call. I would regret every call that you guys made that year. You ran the ball with the quarterback with 14 seconds left, tried to get it up, and Dak gives the ball to the center because he thinks the center can spot the ball himself. The center spots the ball, and the official, doing what he's supposed to do, is supposed to come over. He sprinted, tried to jump over Dak, and tried to spot the ball because that's his job. That's how we do things in the NFL. And the Cowboys were like, yeah, we can just go. Snap it, done. Dallas Cowboys absolutely failed. So my sentence is, why did Dak run? Because a lot of this could have been avoided if that didn't happen. Mike, what do you got?
Well, first, Coach, just want to save all these Cowboys tears.
Oh, there you go. It's been a while since you've done that.
Nice class. Oh God, it feels so good. I have one sentence. It's not your year.
Ooh.
Not your year.
Never is.
Let me go into this.
Yeah, just.
Tastes amazing. But let's get into this game. Niners came to play. They literally, for most of the game, dominated the Cowboys and exposed them for what they are, frauds. On CBS and Nickelodeon. You got embarrassed on Nickelodeon. That's pretty sad. I'm going to be honest with you. And Dak won MVP, which is interesting to say the least.
The footsteps of Mitchell
Trubisky. Pretty humorous if you ask me. But yeah, in the steps of Mitchell Trubisky, you know, quarterback of the losing team, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, the Cowboys, sad because on paper they have all the talent in the world to get it done. But one thing they lack big time, what I've tried to reiterate over this past year, is discipline. They're the most penalized. They were the most penalized team in the NFL this season, and in this playoff game, they tied the franchise record for most penalties in franchise history in a playoff game, 14. That is something that they need to clean up, and that just also points to poor coaching too by Mike McCarthy and even Kellen Moore too. Because at this point, you don't know who's really running the offense at this point. Kellen Moore might be calling a place, Mike McCarthy may be okay then, vice versa. But at the end of the day, just poor coaching on both sides of the ball. They got to a point where I think Randy Gregory literally hugged a lineman and threw him down. And if that's not a holding penalty, I don't know what is. That's just poor discipline, like just huge lack of discipline right there whatsoever. And DAK sliding, what a perfect way to end the season, And to say that he blames the rest just shows how much he lacks the leadership. As a great leader of a team that pays you $40 million a year, you gotta take ownership. That was completely on him. You gotta give it to the referee to spot the ball. That's the rules. You can't give it to the center and spot it from there. That's where they messed up. And the fact that DAK at first wanted to put it all on the refs at first, shame on him. He just showed that he may never become the great quarterback, the $40 million quarterback that Dallas wants him to be. He's a good quarterback. I'm not wrong. Statistically, he puts up great numbers. That's why people consider him top 5. I would never even put him in top 5 whatsoever, or even top 10, in my opinion. But
only statistically at this point.
Exactly. Statistically, yeah, definitely statistically, with the offense you have around him, how could you not throw for like 4,000, 4,500 yards a game, No, a season. But at the same time, too, you got to put the team on your back when it counts. And he just showed that he consistently cannot do that. He could only do that really against bad teams. I looked before this episode. I actually looked at Dallas' schedule because I was trying to look for reasons why the Cowboys choked as always and lost the title of We Them Boys, And I looked during the season, they were 1-4 against playoff teams, and their only win against a playoff team came against the Patriots when they were 2-4 and having a rough start to their season, as we remember. If that doesn't alarm you big time, it's just showing that they beat up on bad teams, especially the NFC least. Because, you can, with that roster, you can easily beat the Giants football team and the Eagles big time. And I'll be the first one to admit, even as an Eagles fan. But going into next season, I do think Mike McCarthy loses his job. But, yeah, this is a lot of questions to answer at this point. Zeke is not not the running back he once was, And, yeah, just Dakota Prescott needs to take this, really just needs to take this offseason to think, am I going to be the quarterback that my team needs? Or am I just going to be the one to blame everybody around me but myself? So something to look at, but love to see the Cowboys fans crying. That disgusting, absolutely disgusting fan base. Love to drink.
I've always said that making fun of America's team is now America's pastime at this point because it's just everybody loves to do it. It's a big thing. I will say that I think this fan base has suffered enough. Honestly, they've gone through so much. I know, obviously,
not enough.
You say you will never have enough suffering from Cowboys fans at this point, but it is going to be over. It's going to be about 30 years since they've last won the Super Bowl. At this point, made the Super Bowl for any franchise, and that's a very long time for a team that has all this money, has this palace, has basically the Taj Mahal of football stadiums at their disposal. Jerry Jones is one of the most known and famed owners of all time in the history of the National Football League, and the Dallas Cowboys have been unable to build a team ever since the 90s or approaching the 20s. We're getting into the 20s. We're 2 years into the 20s, Mike, and 3 years if you count 2020 itself. And the Dallas Cowboys still have not won a Super Bowl since a long time ago. Jerry Jones, I think Jerry Jones, you can put it on Mike McCarthy, you can put it on Kellen Moore. I think Jerry Jones, it's time. I think it's time for Jerry Jones to become more of a hands-off owner and leave the team to people who know modern football, because what he's been able to do clearly has not been working And I think he has too
Hmm.
much responsibilities on his plate for the age that he is as of now. I mean, he's the owner. He's not going to tell himself to step down unless if he really believes he should. But this Cowboys team is a good roster, and Jerry Jones has not been able to put coaches in positions for success. Mike McCarthy was a decision that he made based off of, oh, he was Aaron Rodgers' coach. He was a Green Bay coach. You should get Eric Bieniemy on the phone right now. You're going to lose Kellen Moore most likely.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
the coaching decisions that the hires he's made as an owner have been absolutely awful for the most part. Holding on to Jason Garrett as long as he did.
Yeah, I
Um,
do agree.
that was terrible. He's trying to replace the Jimmy Johnson era that he had and everything back then. And he just
Yeah.
hasn't been able to replicate the success of those old teams, but he's still holding on to that even almost 30 years later and trying to do that. So I think Jerry Jones, it's time.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but like you said too, he's the owner of the team. He can't just immediately just get forced to step down.
He can do whatever he
I mean,
wants. I mean, he has all the money.
Exactly. He can do whatever he wants, but it's just a matter of time when he will accept responsibility and be like, okay, like you said, my plans aren't working. It's time for me to look for a young, modern owner that knows modern football,
Yeah.
and can handle money pretty well. And yeah,
Or not even just
but
the owner, just a general manager.
yeah, either one,
Yeah, because I think this roster has been pretty good. It just hasn't been able to capitalize. They haven't been able to.
on paper,
Yeah.
they have a fantastic roster,
Yeah.
and they draft well too, which is surprising, and they still can't get past one round in the playoffs.
Yeah. So I think
which is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I believe it's coaching. In the
it is big time coaching.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy is not the answer. Again, get Eric Bieniemy on the phone right now. Don't hire Bill O'Brien because I know they want to. I know it's in their head. Don't hire Bill O'Brien. Don't hire Gerard Mayo. Right? I think he'll be a good coach, but don't if you're the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Jerry Jones is trying to get one more Super Bowl before he unfortunately passes away. So, if you want to do that, I think you have to get Eric Bieniemy on the phone, become the next head coach of your football team because they're going to lose Kellen Moore. Okay, they're going to lose Kellen Moore, so at least hire Eric.
Yeah, I agree. He's a good coaching candidate.
And just make the right hires because I think in terms of coaching, it's right in front of everybody's face who the best coaches available are, and they have one of them. But again, a guy like Bieniemy has been there this whole time. Vance Joseph has done a great job with Tampa Bay, so we'll see what Dallas does. I don't know if Dallas fans agree with the Jerry Jones take, but we'll find out. We have one more game on this former schedule, and honestly, it's the most interesting one. I'm not a Bengals fan. I have quite a few hats. I'm sadly a Colts fan because they Carson Wentz needs to go. Okay, we both have genuine distaste for Carson Wentz here, I think, but again, different times. Well, you appreciate what he's done. He hasn't really done much for me. You appreciate him as an asset to get you 3 first-round picks in this draft. But in terms of the Cincinnati Bengals, what I have to say about them is that Joe Burrow is for real. Derek Carr, not so much to me. I do like Derek Carr. I think he's a good quarterback, but the gap between Joe Burrow and Derek Carr was really just shown in this game. And Joe Burrow has established himself as a top 10 quarterback in this league. He is that good of a football player. And already, and I think he'll be top 5 within the next 2 years. He's already such a great player. He is the swagger unlike anyone I've ever seen. And he is the coolness of anybody as great as Joe Montana. He is that dude. And I think Joe Montana is watching him and saying, that guy looks like a lot like me. Coming into the league, that was the comparison that I gave him. Joe Montana, the arguably second best, arguably even best quarterback of all time at this point, depending on how old you are. Joe Montana was a guy that just went on the field, would go in the huddle and say, all right, let's do this. And just walk down, threw the ball a few times, got a touchdown, did what he did. That's what I saw from Joe Burrow. Okay. He is cool, calm, and collected at all situations and all facets. And then he goes in the locker rooms and has a few dances with Jamar Chase and his boys. Okay. That's what he does. Joe Burrow is the coolest man on the planet. Okay. So he's what he does, but he's also a great passer. I mean, he knows how to find players. He knows how to do what he does. He's a very accurate thrower of the football. He's a good decision maker, and he can make plays when he needs to. The Raiders, Derek Carr, the decision making is not there. The arm strength is there. I think the accuracy is there. Just the decision making. I don't think this Raiders team has a really great core as well. I want to see Derek Carr play with a better roster in front of him. I mean, give him Jamar Chase, give him
I agree.
receivers. So, but I don't know how much longer Carr's confidence can really handle the poor roster decisions that this Raiders organization has made. Mike Mayock should stay on NFL Network, and he's been fired, so that's probably a good idea. Drafting Clelin Ferrell 4th overall was probably a sign of things to come for this team. But Mike, what are your thoughts? What is your sentence for this matchup?
This goes for the Bengals. You better watch out. You know, Bengals honestly is probably dark horse candidate for the AFC crown. You know, their defense, I have to say, has improved big time. Last season, it was also Burrow's injury, but also the defense wasn't that pretty. But when you look at this roster now, very vastly improved. Zach Taylor has coached his team very well. It's great that Bengals fans had a lot of patience with his team because the payoff was huge. 10-7 this season, you know, not even like that. The record was super impressive either, but at the same time, the potential of this team is off the charts. Like you said, Burrow is a classic gunslinger. He's got the confidence, he's got the swagger, he's got the arm, he's got what it takes to be a great quarterback in this league. And he is easily this season a top 10 quarterback, easily, no question about it. He's one hell of a talented guy. And who else is another hell of a talented guy? Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, even as a rookie, 1,400 yards receiving. If I'm not wrong, 1,400 yards receiving. That's ridiculous. That's unheard of. That's ridiculous. As talented as he is, even as a rookie, you would expect to make some mistakes. He made them in preseason, and he popped off this season. You know, so yeah. All I can say for the Bengals offense, for anybody facing them, watch out, because you need to make sure you keep those two in check. Because if you don't, you're gonna have a very miserable afternoon or evening, depending on when you play.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. But as for Carr, you know, I'm a big fan of Carr. You know, I really like him. Like you said, his confidence and I think his patience is wearing very thin too. I feel like he's a quarterback that's been consistently placed in bad situations. Raiders organization made a good first step by letting go of Mayock. You know, his drafting has been less than impressive, big time. And if your number one receiver is Zay Jones, I don't want to go into that. That's pretty depressing. You know, Josh Jacobs, I mean, solid running back, not amazing in my opinion. But yeah, I definitely want to see Carr play with a better roster. You know, I have high hopes for him. I think he's a good quarterback. Like I said, decision making is very shaky here and there, especially in big moments. But he's got the arm, he's got the accuracy to make it happen. He can make it happen. I just think he needs a few more weapons, like any other quarterback needs. I think he just needs a few more, especially at the receiver position. I think he just needs special X factors at that position to make it happen. It's impressive to see that even after the drama with John Gruden and that entire organization, especially with Ruggs and everything, that they made it this far. That's just something to be very proud of. I think Rich is a really good coach. I think he should have some sort of role with another team or even with the Raiders organization, but they got a future. It just depends to see who they hire as GM and where they go from there. Because I think Carr is a quarterback that you could build around and find a way to win. You know, it's just a matter of time to see. You know?
Yeah, Derek Carr, I don't think he's the problem. I just don't see him as the solution as of yet. There's a lot more issues that go on with this team. You mentioned the receiving core. Darren Waller is obviously phenomenal. He had some injury issues later in the season, and he wasn't at his potential, at his peak. Not his fault. He was hurt. This offensive line could be so much better. This defensive unit, their secondary has seen players go missing. Max Crosby is an elite defensive lineman. I think their D line's pretty solid. Their linebacker core is good enough.
It's good enough, yeah. I agree.
Their secondary, I don't like it that much. I don't like their offensive line. They have a lot of improvements to make. Josh Jacobs is good enough. This team is good enough, I think.
Exactly. That's their problem. They're just good enough. Yeah. They're not elite.
Right. And there's steps that they can make towards doing that, but they haven't made those decisions as a roster. And I put a lot of that on Mayock. And I was surprised to see the Raiders fire him because he has not had a good year. He has not had a good past few years, and he hasn't drafted too well. So we'll see what he does. He drafted Henry Ruggs over Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. There's that too. He tried to be too analytical, and it just is what it is. But
yeah,
the Raiders, if they hire a good GM, they'll be on an uptrend, not a downtrend. I can see them
Definitely.
going back to the playoffs as a wild card, especially with that 7.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But the Bengals, they're for real. I see them beating the Titans. We'll talk about that more later on.
Mm.
But this is there's a lot of. I think this wild card weekend was disappointing, but I don't blame it entirely on the 7 seed thing because the other games weren't great either. Besides the Dallas Cowboys Niners game, I mean the Bengals
Yeah.
Raiders game was okay, but not a lot of great games. But hopefully we
Yeah, I
get some
agree.
more in the divisional round. We'll talk about that more. Mike, do you have anything else to add?
Nope. I'm looking forward to our preview coming Friday.
As always, we are looking forward to it all here on the Break. Thank you so much for watching this episode. We will see you all later. Let's have fun watching some football over this next weekend. Okay, let's do it.